Hello out there, everyone in television land. Welcome to episode 5 of Talkin Baseball.
Season 4.
Season 4, episode 5. Thank you so much for watching. We very much appreciate it. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the team, but we're going to hold that thought on a few things today. Some things that, well, are a part of the game that I think merit some discussion back and forth. There are some things, some rules, archaic rules, things like that we're going to discuss today, and I'm sure you'll have opinions on them too, so let us know, of course.
You know, if you're a real fan, the day-to-day play is interesting, but the deeper things, underlying things that might be improved, or things that just have always been accepted that maybe shouldn't be accepted, things that have been bugging us
for years.
So, just for a difference in the show, because the Red Sox are plowing through the season with great success.
Oh my Lord.
We didn't really need to talk about them now, so perhaps some of these things you'll get a kick out of.
So before we start, we do want to send our very best along to Jerry Remy, who sadly has had another cancer diagnosis. He will not be in the booth the rest of the season. Jerry, all our best to you. We miss you, and even if you don't get back in the booth, I hope you still are involved in the team in some way. We all love you. My dog is named Remy after you. So
our dog is named Pesky.
Yes. So all our best to Jerry. You kick cancers, you know what, as they say. So all our best.
Well, the first thing we thought we'd talk about is the All-Star game.
Yes.
The All-Star game followed true to Jake's pattern.
Yes. So in case you missed it last time, there's a terminology in baseball called the 3 true outcomes, which is a home run, a walk, or a strikeout. And the reason they're called that is because they are the 3 plays in baseball that are completely dependent on just the pitcher and batter. If the pitcher makes contact, then it becomes partly dependent on the fielder what happens. But a home run, a walk, or a strikeout is totally the batter and the pitcher. And baseball's been trending that way. I said last time, 37% of all the plate appearances this year have been a home run, a walk, or a strikeout. Well, that held true to form in the All-Star game this year if you watched. The All-Star game had 10 home runs, 25 strikeouts, and 9 walks by the best players on the planet. So that's the way baseball's trending, and it was shown in the All-Star game, for better or worse, depending on what kind of fan you are of the game.
But doesn't that show that the best pitchers and the best hitters were playing?
Yes, it does, actually. Because 10 homers given up means that the best pitchers also gave up 10 homers, and the best hitters struck out 25 times.
You see, this is great. The best hitters got 10 home runs. The best pitchers struck out 25 guys. Hold that thought. The best pitchers also gave up 10 home runs. And the best hitters struck out 25 times.
So if you're a fan of the 3 true outcomes, this was your favorite All-Star game. But that's just a trend of the game. It used to be, years ago, I mean, even like 30, 40 years ago when I started watching back in the 80s, where stolen bases and contact were the big thing, and going back even to the 50s with the days of DiMaggio, who never struck out, and Ted Williams never struck out. Those days are gone. They don't care if you strike out now. It's just another out.
That's right.
And the days of choking up after 2 strikes and not wanting to strike out and making contact, those days are gone. They figure, Aaron Judge is a perfect case. You have 3 swings. Just wail away at all 3 swings and hope you hit one out.
It was just amazing, though, that the All-Star game, the showpiece of baseball, captured that concept perfectly.
Sure did.
Perfectly.
Everything. Yep. Yeah. Every single thing that had been trending in baseball came together in the All-Star game. Rob Deere would be happy right now if you all remember that guy. So, but it's amazing that I just saw a stat breakdown of the all-time 3 true outcome percentage of an at bat, and the top 10, 7 of the top 10 are either active or just retired. Folks like Russell Branyan and Judge is getting there. You didn't have enough plate appearances, but that's the way it's going. So if you like dingers and strikeouts, hey, this is your era right here.
Interestingly, though, the top home run hitters aren't going to be hitting 50, 60 home runs this year. Just everybody's going to hit 20.
Everybody's hitting 20 or 30. Yep.
That's right.
I mean, you look up and down the power teams like the Yankees and the Astros and the Sox, even the guys down at the bottom of the order have a bunch of home runs, and doubles especially, too. Extra base hits are way up. So
the batting average, the National League, there's only 8 people hitting over 300 right now.
yeah, and it used to be, how many? The top 20, 25, 30 guys would have...
You're in the top 10 hitting 295.
Yeah, which is really funny because that harkens back to like the 70s and 80s. I remember Jerry Remy, I think, was 10th in the league, and he did 290, I think, one year. He was 10th in the league. So the averages are coming down, but the power is up. I mean, well, last night the Sox faced Chris Davis on the Orioles. Chris Davis is hitting 160. But he has 15 homers, so he's playing every day because they're hoping, every once in a while, like in the Dave Kingman, he's the perfect one for that. Once a week he'll crush one, but they're happy with that. Then back in the day, that you did not play if you're hitting 160.
Dave Kingman hit, I think, 442 home runs in his career. He didn't get a single vote for the Hall of Fame.
Right, yeah, goes to show. Well, or another one is the guy, Joey Gallo from Texas. He has 29 homers and 26 singles this year. I mean, go figure that one out.
Oh, okay. Here's something we'd like to start the show off, talking about what they call walk-up music.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain what exactly that is?
Oh, well, that brings us to our trivia question, too, actually, but I'll explain what walk-up music is first. So walk-up music is what you hear when the name is announced. They'll say, David Ortiz, and you'll get about 10 seconds of music as the player makes his way from the on-deck circle to the batter's box, and it's supposed to get the crowd into it. Like I wore this shirt today, every little thing's going to be all right. Now, if you remember in 2013, that was Shane Victorino's walk-up song, and it turned into a huge thing. Every time he came to at bat at Fenway, the whole place would start singing along with Bob Marley, and they keep singing after the music was drowned out and he was hitting. So I think they're hoping to sort of catch lightning in a bottle with that again with someone, that this becomes a huge deal, sort of along the lines of Sweet Caroline, that it becomes an association with a player, and it helps market the players.
Except, did he pick that, or did they just...
I have no idea.
Because what they do now is the player picks his own, and they even put the name of the song up on the scoreboard as he comes up.
And I don't know
every single time he walks up to the plate, bang, they hear that song. I know if I were batting, that would bug me, because I would start singing along with the song. My song would probably be Hound Dog. So I'd be up there singing Hound Dog in my head, strike one.
Strike one. Oh, Scotty Moore's ripping on guitar in this song. Keep it coming. I want to hear the whole thing. Oh, wait, my bat's over.
Personally, I hate it because it's just more noise in the ballpark. And they always blast it, too. Blast this song as the guy's coming up and you're trying to score your scorecard.
And I will say, I don't know a single song when they're coming up. I mean, I like to think I kind of stay current for music. Yeah, I don't know a single one.
Kids that pick Superstition.
Yeah, that's the only one that...
What exactly the connection is? Because he hurt himself the third game.
Yeah.
So.
And Brock Holt has a country song, which no one else has. He's the only country fan on the team, I guess. But it fits in with the current zeitgeist, I guess you should say.
Yeah, I guess.
Every single second, you have to be entertained. I mean, that's the way the NFL has been. That's the way the NBA is trending now. Even when you watch the Bruins games, there's a tiny little break in the action. They put like 10 seconds of a song on just to keep you occupied. Nobody likes silence anymore. Which, again, it probably depends on your age group. I'm sure if you're 25 and under, you're fine with that. But if you're a little older...
In the past, they have used some... what do you call them? Walk-in songs when the...
Oh, yes. Yeah, Trevor Hoffman came into Hell's Bells. Mo Rivera had Enter Sandman. So there are a couple times where even pitchers have that. But it's mostly used for batters. So
and the pitchers didn't pick those.
No.
I know when we were out in San Diego, Hell's Bells came on, and everybody, because he was good, it charged the crowd up.
Right.
But it wasn't every single batter. In fact, when we were in Seattle and A-Rod was playing there, Who Let the Dogs Out, which I remember the connection, would come on and everybody would go, whoo, whoo, whoo. Because A-Rod was
I don't think Mo Rivera ever heard of Metallica before they chose it as his song. So that's not the player's choice. But that brings us to our trivia question, actually, for today. Okay. So now that you know what walk-up music is, what was the first case of walk-up music being used in MLB? What was the first time walk-up music was used?
What was the origin of all this walk-up stuff? Where did it come from?
So I think you're right. It's a way to get the crowd charged up. It gets especially the younger crowd, which baseball is so determined to get in, and rightfully so. I think they're trying to get a younger crowd in. Well, you bring your 10-year-old to the game, and the 10-year-old knows the songs better than you do. So you're going to get the 10-year-old sort of jumping around when the song comes on, and at least it sort of focuses the attention on the game for that at bat. I get what they're trying to do with the walk-up music.
So just for the fun of it, we thought we'd pick some walk-up songs.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For the Red Sox.
Definitely.
And that would be more appropriate than just any old song.
Oh, I did pick. I picked other players outside of the Red Sox too. So.
Okay. Well, just there are a few. Benintendi should be Benny in the Mets.
Ah, there you go. That's right.
Let's see, for the shortstop.
Xander?
No, for Kelly.
For Joe Kelly.
Street fighting man.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect one.
Bogart should be short people because he's a short.
He's a shortstop. I get it.
Moreland, how's this? 18 with a bullet.
Oh yes, great one. Yeah, 18 with a bullet.
Okay.
Paul Wingfield, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
How about Bradley? Center field.
Center field, right? Well, they used to play that before the games, I think, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah, I think when they were in the warm-ups, they used to play center
Was
field.
it for him?
No, it was, I think, in general, they used to do it.
Leon.
Perfect.
And one maybe only Jake will appreciate. That should be theme from The Great Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski. Yeah. That's right, Mookie the bowler. So,
what have you got there?
Yeah. Well, I went outside the Red Sox for some of mine. Like I said, Shane Victorino was the ultimate one. Now, we do have a funny little aside here. Back in 2004, when the Red Sox had Johnny Damon, my wife and I were at a game, and he came up and we started singing Be Good Johnny by Men at Work. The next time we went to a game, about 2 or 3 weeks later, it was his theme song. Did John Henry hear us? We don't know. It may have just been a coincidence.
I would hope you didn't find this.
I would hope so, because it was just bizarre. We looked at each other and said, wait a minute. Last time we were here, we started singing this song. We don't know if John Henry was within earshot, but we take credit for that if that actually did happen. I thought a perfect one. There's a guy called Carlos Santana in the majors right now.
That's right.
Oye, como va? Winning would be even better. Winning would be a great one.
And he's still playing.
He's still playing, yeah. So that'd be a great one. I thought for Don Baylor, the all-time guy for getting hit by a pitch, hit me with your best shot. I mean, that's a perfect one for him. And, of course, the wild thing of my lifetime, the ultimate wild thing, Mitch Williams. I mean, come on. Mitch Williams has to come into wild thing. He was the ultimate walk or strikeout
guy. Well, that's right. In the movies, they've used those too.
Sure, Major League. That was Charlie Sheen's theme song when he came out.
Right.
And this one may be a little, not in great taste, but I still think it's pretty funny. I think Father of Mine by Everclear would be perfect for when Steve Garvey came up. That's just me. I think that would be a great one. So that might be a little in bad taste, but so what?
Look it up.
It's fun. Look it up if you don't know Steve Garvey's history. So those are just our suggestions for good walk-up songs. And if you have any, let us know too. I mean, we're always up for feedback on that. So, but I don't know, it just sort of illustrates, I think, how far can you take it before it starts getting silly? I think is part of what we're trying to get at. I get the idea behind it, but at some point you have to say, okay, this is a little bit much.
And I get the impression too, watching people around with us come on, a lot of people don't know what it even is.
No.
Songs.
No. Well, if you don't know the song, that's a lot of it. Like I said, I don't know a single one.
So all of a sudden, some music, a lot of Spanish music these days.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Come on,
yes.
And you say, what's that?
What's that song? Yeah.
Because you don't always pay attention to who's the next batter.
Right.
It's just sort of to me, another annoyance. A loud annoyance.
It goes along with the flashing scoreboards and and all the other stuff. Speaking of flashing, just a little aside, you did see that the Mariners had a full streaker at the game the other night, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Yes, they did. The Mariners had. It's on YouTube. Go look it up. It was very.
They showed it?
Yeah. Somebody at the game had camera footage of the cell phone, and they had a full-blown streaker on the field. So just an aside, it's on YouTube. Go check it out. Just a little fun baseball.
I assume his walk-up song was Bare Naked Women.
Yes. Or Short People. Short People. I don't know. Anyway, back to focusing here. Okay.
All right, here's another thing that's always bugged me ever since I followed baseball. When someone steals a base and they make no attempt to throw him out because the game is either lopsided or because the run won't matter. They don't credit him with a stolen base, but call it defensive indifference. Defensive indifference.
Boo.
Now, I don't get that. A guy stole second base. And how do they account for that? Say they didn't try to get him? Well, who determines in what situations it's defensive indifference? Because if the team is ahead, say 7-5, and it's the last of the ninth inning, and one batter on, he steals, so that run won't make the difference. That automatically makes a defensive indifference. But what if the catcher drops the ball, so he can't try to throw the guy out? That does count as defensive attempt.
And hold that thought, it also can keep you out of a double play. So there is a point to stealing a base, even when that run, quote, doesn't matter. It depends on the situation.
And
it can be very crucial.
Why not give the guy a stolen base?
And who cares?
What's the difference?
Why should he not get credit for a steal if the other team doesn't care? That's not right.
So I asked Gordon Eads, the Red Sox historian, what the background of that is. He said in 1920, that rule went into effect, that if there's no attempt to throw a guy out in a situation where throwing him out wouldn't matter. It's been on the books since then, which means a lot of Ty Cobb's stolen bases, which occurred way before that.
Sure.
His record of 890-something could very well have been a lot less. But the term defensive indifference, he didn't find anywhere until 1983.
And I don't even remember it that long.
I don't
remember it till the 90s, to be honest with you.
At least until the 90s.
Well, and speaking of Ty Cobb, how many of Ricky Henderson's would have been that way too? That they just gave him a stolen. Ricky Henderson used to get on and steal second, then third, no matter what the score was. So I mean, it's sort of random. Like sometimes they'll enforce the rule, sometimes they won't. It's completely random up to the official scorer. It's nonsense. Just give the guy the stolen base.
What difference?
It doesn't matter.
It's a stat. So do they have stats for total defensive indifferences? It's some other stat. How do they account for that? You have to account for every base gain.
Exactly.
That's why they give an error to an outfielder or the guy gets an extra base or something.
Exactly.
How do they account for that? Where is that in the rule?
Exactly.
Or in the box score? Where does it say that?
It doesn't say it anywhere.
So if the guy went from first to second, and they just said the score decided it didn't matter?
Yeah, right. And then you're looking at the box score, scored on a single. Well, how did he score from first on a single? He didn't. He scored from second. It's just not accounted for, which, like you said, you have to account for every single base in the course of the game. How the person got there.
Let me give you another scenario. In the National League, where the pitchers have to bat, very often the manager will say to the pitcher, don't swing. You don't get hurt. Too many pitchers have been hurt lately, especially in the American League, where they don't have to run much, by getting on base. So the pitcher will just get up there, and maybe 2 outs, nobody on. Stand there, take his 3 strikes, and sit down. The pitcher gets a strikeout. That's offensive indifference.
No kidding it is.
So how is that justified? To give the pitcher in the National League 40 extra strikeouts a year when the pitchers make no attempt to hit the ball?
Oh yeah, think of it, and this is not demeaning Greg Maddux at all. Think of how many extra strikeouts he had in the course of his career just by facing pitchers. He was in the National League his whole career. I mean, that's hundreds of strikeouts over the course of a career that he had simply by facing the pitcher.
Well, lots of times the pitcher will attempt a lame bunt.
Yeah,
it's just
bunt foul on the third strike. So what is that?
Offensive indifference, folks.
Yeah, and don't point to Rick Porcello earlier in the year. That was a once-in-a-lifetime miracle at bat. That was a complete outlier. Do not point to that as a case the pitchers can hit because they can. Go look at the numbers.
Yeah, they always say that in the old days when pitchers batted a lot, they hit better. False.
No, they did not. Absolutely no. No. For every Madison Bumgarner who can't hit, there were 30 guys who can't hit. So don't use the exception to make your point.
Lemon Grove and Earl Wilson hit about 40 home runs, but they had played in the minor leagues. They were position players. Mm-hmm. And for every one of those guys, there was a Frank Sullivan that I think was 1 for 200.
Yeah, or John Lester, I think has 2 hits in his career or something like that. And and keep in mind too, and I have friends who are National League fans, and this drives me nuts. A little tangent here. You know, there are only 2 leagues in the world that don't use the DH. There's a league in Japan and the National League here. Everywhere else has the DH. Get with the times, people. Come on. The days of pitchers hitting is done. It's gone.
Baseball, as we said over and over, is a business. It's entertainment.
It is.
You want to entertain people. It's not entertaining to see some poor pitcher wander up there and be baffled by curves. And,
Right.
In fact, the pitchers that throw change-ups and curves to pitchers should be shot. It's so unfair. The poor guy
really is.
He can't hit a slow.
It really
He can't
is.
hit a Cologne fastball.
Oh, God. Watching somebody like David Price, who's been in the AL his whole career trying to hit it, it's just not fair. It really isn't.
And people want to be entertained, so the DH allows great sluggers, people with names. Imagine Ted Williams having another 5 years, Joe DiMaggio another 5 years.
Sure.
He didn't have to play in the field.
Sure.
You want to see these guys play. But what happened if we hadn't had a DH with Poppy and he'd been in the National League?
Yeah, well, he probably would have blown out his knees years earlier because he would have been forced into playing first base.
And think about it, these days, any wonder is that the pitchers all want to gravitate to the National League, or hitters want to graduate to the American League.
Sure,
Go on
absolutely.
their careers, it's a whole different scene.
Absolutely.
This idea of having pure baseball
Is
just-
nonsense.
Pure baseball.
Sorry.
They didn't have the sacrifice fly until 1950.
Right.
And it counted.
Right.
If he flew out and the guy scored, it was an at-bat.
Yeah, well, pure baseball is the starter going 9 innings every time. Come on, that's not going to happen. And when the game evolves, like we said, get with it. So that's our little tangent from the defensive indifference. But again, back to the stolen bases, and it's not like people are going to be breaking Henderson and Brock's record. The stolen base is not a focus of the game today. Like the Red Sox lead the league in steals. Do you consider them a speedster team? You know, are they like the Cardinals and the Expos of the 80s when every guy's throwing it on? No, they're just smart about it, and that's not a focus of the offense today. Now, will the game trend the other way in 20 years? Who knows? It might. The game changes and evolves. But in today's game, it's sort of silly not to give credit where credit's due.
I've been going to games for 70 years. I can remember 2 or 3 guys, Henderson especially, that was psyched to see him get on base and see if he could steal.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Over 10 times, 10
Oh,
times.
absolutely.
But who else do you go to see on the bases?
Sure.
Nobody.
Willie Wilson was a guy like that,
Yeah.
too. He got on and you steal the base.
So that was a focus. Look, I'm going to see if Henderson can steal today.
Yeah.
But you go to the game to see Mookie steal. He's stolen 22 bases, but let's not go see him. We want to see him hit a home run.
Get one out. Yes.
Get one out.
Or we want to see JBJ make a great play in the field. We don't care if he steals a base.
Today it's not stealing bases, it's more like smart base running.
Sure it is.
Situational. Know when you can run against certain pitchers.
Sure.
Try to get the double steal occasionally.
Yeah, the Sox's stolen base percentage this year is unbelievable. It's record-setting. And again, it's not pure number, it's just percentage. It's smart and knowing when
And
to
teams
go.
like the Yankees and Baltimore just don't bother.
Yeah, right.
They don't have
They're just going to try to slug you to death.
Right. So the whole concept of stolen base is not what it used to be back in the dead ball era.
Right,
It was
right.
the only way you could score. Is
Sure.
bunt, steal, and hope so maybe a single.
Yeah, I mean, hope somebody hits a
That's it.
roller through and you'll
That's right.
score. Yeah.
It's not that case anymore.
No.
This is a different era.
This is a different era, and for better or worse, whether you like it or not, that's the way it is. So moving on to our next point here.
Next point. And this is something that has not been changed ever in baseball. And that is, if a game is rained out before it reaches 4.5 or 5 innings, the entire record of the game is eliminated. It's just washed out completely like it never happened.
Yeah, we had
It's
that
always been that way.
We had that happen this year where the Sox were blowing out the Orioles after 2 innings, and the rains came, and they have to start the game over. I think it was Martinez and Benintendi. They had 3 homers, and those guys just lost their homers. They get no credit for them.
Completely lost the record.
Yeah, and so and Dylan Bundy doesn't get those 5 runs put on his record, although he gave up plenty last night to make up for it.
So I don't understand what the whole concept behind just eliminating the game is concerned.
Well, it was written in the 1870s or whatever the rule was written. It goes way back.
So hold that
thought. Exactly.
Why not just pick the game up at a later date?
Why hasn't it changed since that day? And and the thing is, in the playoffs, they do that. There was one last year or 2 years ago. It rained after the first inning, and they just picked it up from where it started. Well, why do you have 2 different sets of rules? Why are the playoffs different? But perfect example of I think it was 2010. That my wife and I went to a game, and Beckett had started. It got rained out with 1 out in the 5th inning, and there was no score. So Beckett completely loses his 5 shutout innings of that game, and it got wiped out. They had to restart the game, and we couldn't go to the makeup game. We had something else going on, so we ended up not being able to go anyway. But the point is, why does Beckett lose those innings? And it also messes with the team because they lose that start. You're losing a start by an ace starter. I don't understand it. I think just pick it up. The only argument maybe you could make against it is say, the Red Sox have their righty and lefty lineup. If there's a righty starting, or if there's a lefty starting, you're probably going to see Pierce, things like that. And the team can counter and throw a lefty or righty to counter your lineup, but so can you. So it's a chess match.
Well, for years, for the entire history of baseball, to finish a game so that it's an official game has been a cat and mouse game.
Oh, of course it has.
If the home team is losing, they want to stall it so you don't finish 5 innings.
Of course.
If they're winning, they want to be sure that they get through 4.5 innings. There's a very famous Norman Rockwell.
Oh, yeah, right.
Great
Yes,
meeting,
yeah.
taking place between, I think it's Pittsburgh and Brooklyn managers. And it shows 3 big umpires, their big balloon fronts there, holding a hand up, and there's a couple of drops of rain coming down. And behind them, there's one manager saying, "Oh, it's a beautiful day."
Yeah.
The other's going like this, all
He's all hunkered down.
One wants to finish it. You see on the scoreboard that Brooklyn's leading, or Cubs are leading something 8-6. And so to finish a game has been countless episodes of stalling.
Oh,
I can
sure.
remember when one team was, the home team had to get through 4.5 innings. They were intentionally striking out.
Oh, sure.
To make sure they got through the deadline.
Sure.
Which is sort of a travesty to have to do that. Why not just call it and finish it later?
Yeah, and keep in mind when the rule was written, and until recently, the last probably 40 years, games took 2, maybe 2.5 hours. You'd be an hour into the game in the 5th inning. So if you could squeeze an hour in, maybe that would make sense that you could get sort of a game in. Now, with 3-hour games, to get through 5 innings, you need like an hour and a half, even 2-hour window if it comes down to delaying tactics and things like that. So it doesn't make sense to try to get this, to try to get to those 5 innings and then just completely wipe them out. I don't understand.
All those records don't count.
Yeah.
On the perfectly legitimate major league circumstances, people lost home runs, lost statistics.
Sure.
But,
I said the night we went, Beckett struck out 10 in 4 1/3 innings. That start gets stricken from his record. It's like he never pitched that game.
There's so many things. Like if a team is winning 16-2 and they bring in a position player and he gives up 5 runs, those count.
Sure.
Some catcher that's trying to pitch like this.
Yeah, right. Well, David Wright came in a 25-4 game, and he gave up 6 runs in the 9th inning because they ran out of pitchers.
I mean, that's just a travesty. But they count.
But they count. So if those count, why don't the stolen bases count?
Hey, do. I mean, this year the Yankees had a tie game called after 6 innings, and what they did is they put it as the first part of another game. So it's like a half a game, and they can always do that.
Yeah, they picked it up in the 6th inning, and then they did the other game afterwards.
Suspended game first, so it's sort of a doubleheader. But they have to give the money back, of course.
Right,
that's
of course.
Right,
yeah, there you go.
But probably that's bottom line.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Yeah. Well,
but there's no reason why you couldn't tack it on in front of another game and finish it so all that happened up to that point counts.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind, back in the day, sometimes they didn't even make up these games. If it didn't count, then you would have a game or two at the end of the year, and so not everyone played 162 games. You'd have a late rain out, and they just never bothered to make it up. Now, where there's so much money at stake every game, and they would refund your money. Remember those days? Yeah. Oh yeah, if it's not made up, we'll refund your money. Fat chance with that now. Yeah. That's why they make up every game, and if for some odd reason, like the last day of the year you get rained out, they might give you a refund. Other than that, no, your ticket's good for the next game, and they get your money again. So don't figure that one out.
I just thought of something I just read about. Yeah. The Padres have come up with a very interesting ticket plan.
Oh yeah.
For $99, you get tickets for 5 wins.
Right.
So you go and they punch the ticket every time they win. So you might be able to see 20 games.
Oh, that happened to a couple of years ago. There was a Washington Nationals fan, and he had gone, I think my record's bad when I go to games. He saw 22 straight losses when he went to Washington Nationals games. At home. At home. And it was this big deal. They lost every single time that he went. Now, I thought my soul was dark when I walked into Fenway because they never win when I go. I have nothing on this guy. So he could have seen half the season before he got to 5 wins. But when you you don't have a stadium that's selling out every night, you can get away with that.
That's
You
right.
can't do that at Fenway,
No.
where every game sells out.
But there's only about half a dozen teams that sell out now.
Right, sure.
It's
Absolutely.
really down, especially in the American League, where there's only 5 or possibly 6 teams that have a prayer to get into the
Oh, well, when the Sox they were just in Toronto, they were in Baltimore now, those parks are maybe half full. And even with promotions, like I know the Blue Jays, I don't know if they still do it, but a couple of years ago, they were still doing $2 Tuesdays. You could go sit in the second deck for $2 on a Tuesday night. Imagine that, $2. Well, it's probably $3 because it's too Canadian or whatever that works out to. But still, can you imagine a ticket at Fenway that cheap? I mean, come on. So that's just another way to get the people in. But as you said, the money is the bottom line when it comes to, they don't ever want to lose gate. So they figure, we have to make up the game. Good, that's twice the money.
It's okay to lose statistics.
Yes.
You know,
But not money.
not money.
So, as we said, it's a business when it comes down to it. So that's another rant of ours, and that was on perfect display a couple weeks ago. And there was a big uproar in Red Sox Nation about that. That kind of came into light because they were just blowing the Orioles out after 2 innings. And
I'm surprised. In fact, after that game, I did hear some chatter on the talk radio. Maybe they should consider doing
yeah, I did too.
But all these years of listening to ball games, I've never heard that even suggested.
Yep, and we've been to a few. We've been to a few that happened.
And, at the end of the season, maybe they won't make them up, but even that changes statistics.
Oh, sure it does. Oh, sure.
Since statistics are king, that's how they get their salaries.
Right.
That's how they determine all the awards.
Oh, of course, yes. But money's the bottom line. So that's our little sort of rant about the rainouts. And again, chime in. We want to know. We want the feedback.
Next.
Next.
This one already is being discussed. They start talking about this in June. Most Valuable Player Awards. Now, baseball is award crazy. No other sport has that. The most MVPs in other sports are okay, but it's not that much of a concern. Hall of Fames in the other place aren't that much concern. And they don't have a big thing, the top 10 most likely NBA.
No.
But in baseball, it's such a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
And so they're already picking people this person. They pick the player of the week, they pick the player of the month.
Oh yeah, MLB has the countdown, top 50 plays of every month, and every day they talk about this guy's stats versus that guy's stats, and how much is Bryce Harper going to get as a free agent with his stats this year?
What rookie has the most walks so far?
Yeah, sure. Turn on MLB Network for an hour, and it's just stat crazy.
Baseball is a statistic-driven sport.
More than anything.
And people know more baseball statistics than they do presidential statistics.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. And anyway.
So, let's talk about this idea, the most valuable player.
Valuable is subjective.
So subjective.
It's so subjective.
The paper I get that comes out from the Daily News, I think it is, picked 30 editors picked their picks for the most valuable player in the American League at this point. 25 of them picked Mike Trout. And 5 picked Mookie, and nobody picked Martinez or anybody else.
Now, granted, that's a New York bias, so we'll have to buy into that what you will. But the Angels are in 4th place. They've been out of it for a month. They're not even a 500 team at this point. So how valuable can Mike Trout be to that team? How can a 4th place team have a guy who's the most valuable player? They can have the best player, which is something totally different, but a valuable player, no. Hold that thought.
So, if it's simply the best player, all you need to do is put every single player's stats into the shredder. The shredder will come out with a guy with the best stats, all the different velocities, and all that stuff.
Who has the best OPS plus?
Whatever it is, and just that's it. And you don't have subjective writers that decide maybe the pitches shouldn't count, or the whole team shouldn't count, or the place in the standings shouldn't count, and that's it. Because the way it is now, it simply isn't fair.
No, of course it's not. Of course it's not. And like you said, people have different interpretations, different rules. We've talked about this before, the famous when Pedro had his historic 99 season where he went 23-4, whatever he went that year, and just shattered every record. There were 2 writers, Bill Ballou from the Telegram, one of them, yes, we're going to call you out, Bill, left Pedro completely off the ballot because he didn't think that a pitcher should be on an MVP ballot.
Or any other pitcher.
Or any pitcher. No pitcher should be on an MVP ballot, which. Okay, and I understand that line of thinking, but that's not a rule. The rule tells you that you have to include all players in that. So you have writers working with two different sets of rules, and that's not fair. And I'm not saying Pudge Rodriguez wasn't worthy. Pudge probably should have won it.
They're not working with different sets of rules. Interpretation.
It's interpretation,
right.
Sure. So, and I'm sure they were going to run into that bias. Well, some people will think that J.D. Martinez doesn't deserve it because he DHs most of the time, which is nonsense. The DH is a legitimate position, and I guarantee you he's going to run into some opposition because of that.
Even in the Hall of Fame voting.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee Ortiz is going to get in the Hall of Fame, but there will be people that will not vote for him, especially in the first ballot, because he was a DH, which is a position.
Edgar Martinez has been waiting for years. Edgar Martinez should have been in years ago, but because he was a DH, people have that bias against DHs. So it boggles my mind how there were 5, maybe 6 really good teams in the AL this year. And we've talked about the division of the haves and have-nots this year. How on earth can the most valuable player be on a team that's a have-not when there were have teams that the Astros, the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the A's and the Indians, maybe include Seattle, they're starting to fade. How do you not find a worthy candidate on one of those teams to vote for and pick Trout instead?
The Angels are in 4th place. I think right now they're under 500.
They're under 500.
Without Trout, they would be in 4th place.
Under 500. They'd be exactly where they are.
That?
Exactly where they would be.
Nobody's valuable on that team.
Well, right. And you have guys like Betts, like Martinez, or well, it's been proven how valuable Judge is to the Yankees because they've gone into a skid ever since he got hurt. Or Jose Ramirez is having a fantastic year for the Indians, or Lindor is having a. How can you not pick one of those guys ahead of Trout? I can't understand.
Now you're thinking with the Cy Young Award. That's not valuable. That's the best pitcher.
Right, and that's statistics driven. Yeah.
Steve Carlton won the Cy Young with a last place team.
Sure he did.
He won more than half their games then.
I think the year Felix Hernandez won, I think Seattle might have been last that year too, or they were at the bottom.
And he won 14 games.
He won 14 games all year, and that's a whole different argument because that gets subjective too sometimes. But
it's
general,
still a discrepancy.
Right,
that is the best pitcher.
Sure,
but nothing to do with how valuable he was to the team.
Exactly. So
I think that word valuable needs to be examined.
Yeah, sure. Have it as the best player. And you're right, in other sports, like the MVP in basketball all year is the best player on the best team. Almost always gets it.
Right.
Almost always. So why would baseball be different? Or football. Brady wins the MVP. Okay, he's the quarterback on the best team. Makes sense, right? So why should baseball be any different than that?
Okay, as of right now, Jake, who would you say is the MVP of the American League?
I would pick Mookie. I would pick
based on what?
Based on I think that, and again, I hate to have a bias against. This is not a bias DH against Martinez, but I think Mookie gives you the defense. Mookie gives you the power. He gives you the speed, and I think just his presence at the top of the lineup makes everybody behind him better. Now you could argue the same for Martinez too. I think it's very, very close, but if I had to put them, I'd put Mookie first and Martinez second.
Mookie is certainly one of the most remarkable players of the current time.
Sure is.
Just hit for the cycle. He plays with such verve and enthusiasm. He makes the outfield play easy. But to me, valuable means how you impact the team overall.
That's true.
The Red Sox had Mookie last year. They won the division. But it didn't make the kind of difference that Martinez has made.
Good point. See?
He comes into that team, it changes the whole dynamic of the team. Sure. Now they have to pitch to the guys above. Have to pitch below. As we're taping this, I think it's August 11th.
Yes, it is.
I don't know. Sure.
What day is this? A weekday?
Martinez is just topped 100 RBIs. He's leading in RBIs. He's leading in home runs. Only Mookie is ahead of him in
average, right?
He can win the Triple Crown, and he isn't just a DH. He's played left field. He's played right field. Seasonably well. I don't remember any game.
No, he hasn't cost them in the field.
He's the difference in the team.
If he wins the Triple Crown, he'll win the MVP. I think without a doubt. And he makes the people around him better. Moreland's been much better hitting in front of him. Right. Bogarts has been better hitting behind him. Right. He's changed everything. So, and again, this is subjective. So you can make an argument for either player. And so, but at least we're arguing between the people on a top team.
That's right.
And so if a player from the Sox or Indians, Yankees, Astros win it, fine. I don't have a problem because you can make an argument for one of those people. It's just to pick a person on a fourth place team that's been out of the contention since the first month of the season. Right. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Now,
I'm sorry, it really doesn't.
On other teams, who would you say might be good candidates right now?
Let's see. Well, see, the Astros had a couple, but Altuve's been hurt and Correa's been hurt, so that's kind of hard to pick them. We're going to have to see how those play out. I mentioned before, Ramirez and Lindor, I think, from the Indians are two really good candidates. Really good candidates right there.
Especially in their case, because they are, well, they're not in a race, really.
No,
their team hasn't been that good.
Yeah.
And they're not running away with it. If you took... Well, Mookie missed 3 weeks.
Sure, and the Sox are still there.
They still won.
If you took Lindor or Ramirez out of the Indians lineup, that would be
you got to admit
killer.
Judge being out of that lineup.
Oh, I mentioned it before. I think Judge is. I have nothing against Judge. He's a great player. He is the absolute key to that lineup, and you've seen it with Sanchez struggling and hurt. The Yankees have had some times in the Red Sox series. They struggled to score runs in that series without Judge. He's such an important part of that team, and so again, that's value. That's not just statistics.
Exactly right.
That's value. So I think any of those would be my top 5: Ramirez and Lindor and Mookie and Martinez and Judge. They would be my top 5 candidates. Maybe Davis from the A's you might throw in there too. He's had a fantastic year too.
Right.
So I think you could make a solid argument for any of those guys. But Trout as the best player, great. He's probably the best player year in, year out, and he has been his whole career. But not valuable. It's something totally different.
Not this year.
Right.
No. So,
after all that.
Well, okay, we've had some rants here.
Yes.
There's one situation that's come up, though. The Red Sox are having a classic season. Mm-hmm. Maybe the best season ever. Most they ever won was 105 games in a shorter season.
And they're on pace to shatter that.
They do have a couple of tough series coming up. They haven't played the Indians yet.
No, they have 7 against the Indians.
But say they do. The problem is, already, their season is going to be judged by what? The playoffs.
If they win in the playoffs.
They've got to not only win, they've got to win the World Series. Mm-hmm. They have to win the World Series. Mm-hmm. And it makes pressure on the players now.
Sure it does.
Because I think Corey's doing a great job trying to keep everyone rested.
I agree.
Ship people in and out.
100% agree. 100%.
I mean, they've had injuries. Everybody has injuries, but losing Kinsler already, dropping Devers for a while, having 2 starters. I think they're giving Sales somewhat of a break right now.
They've lost 2 catchers. Swihart and Vasquez are both hurt, so Leon has had to shoulder the entire
burden. They brought up a kid last night that I'd never heard of.
Right.
Was thrown into that.
Sure.
In fact, I think that possibly was one of the things that hurt Evaldi last night.
Oh, I 100% agree. 100% agree. Yes, and especially in terms of the bullpen, he's given his starters a little extra leeway sometimes to try to keep the bullpen fresh. Like I know the other night people were all over him for keeping Porcello in too long. Well, guess what? You have a doubleheader Saturday. Yeah. You're not going to fry the bullpen taking Porcello out in the 4th inning. You're going to let him try to figure it out because Cora's great at thinking long term. He doesn't get caught up in the moment. He doesn't get caught up in the emotion or the game where Evaldi pitched 8 shutout innings. Why didn't you leave him in for the shutout? He's thinking long term. Kimbrough hadn't pitched in a week. You don't want your closer to get rusty, which is exactly what happened. He hadn't pitched in a week.
Kimbrough's feeding his gopher ball.
Yes, he is. But that was a perfect example of Cora not getting caught up in the moment. He's thinking long term, what's best across the whole season rather than just living in the now, which you have to do over 162 game season. You have to do that.
Well, hold that thought.
Hold that thought.
We haven't done the trivia answer yet.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So this is kind of interesting. I didn't know this till I researched it.
No, neither did I.
In 1970, back 50 years ago, the organist for the Chicago White Sox was a woman named Nancy Faust, F-A-U-S-T, and she got the bright idea because the White Sox always were coming up with innovations with Bill Beck as the manager, as the owner, and she decided to play the players' state songs, what state they came from, as their walk-up song.
So that
evolved into that. I think it would be more difficult today with players coming from all over the world.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I don't know if there's without calling the anthem, I don't know what the national song of the Dominican is.
Yeah, or Colombia. What would you do for that?
But that was the idea. So they would play whatever the state song is from Maine or whatever. That's how that evolved.
Yeah, and it happened from that it evolved into situations like I remember the Kingdom did this all the time. The Kingdom back in the day always had "Walk This Way" if a batter walked. They'd play the beginning of "Walk This Way" as he was walking to first. Yeah, they would do things like that to kind of keep the interest of the game. For some reason that sticks out that Seattle was a big place that did that way back when the Kingdom.
Because for a long time the only music in the stadium was an organ.
Sure,
organ player.
Yeah,
it was subdued. It was pleasant. And when the Red Sox won, they played Stout-Hearted.
Always Stout-Hearted Man.
John Kiley got there. Everybody goes Stout-Hearted Man.
And during the rain delay, Kylie would play for 2 hours while they put the field back together.
But today it's a little different. Blasting music at all times.
Yeah. And hey, when you're a little older like we are, you don't really like the music that they play. But so what? I can live with that.
Occasionally like to talk.
Now, or discuss things. God forbid about that.
So okay, folks, the Sox are rolling along.
They're rolling, and hopefully we have good news to report next show. But they're at a historic pace right now in terms of winning baseball. So there's really not a lot to discuss. We thought this would be a better little sideshow for the way the season's going so far.
So it's been great talking to you as usual. This was episode 5 of season 4.
Just remember, every little thing's going to be all right. We'll be fine. Yes.
Another great show. Thank you.
All right.
See you all in on.
Thank you for watching another outstanding program provided to you by Lunenburg Public Access. We're here to serve the community. Lunenburg Public Access is always looking for volunteers to help record town events, high school sports, and town meetings. Please consider helping us out today. To contact us, you can call 617-763-3018 or email us at lunenburgaccess@gmail.com.